a system, in simplified terms, has four parts to it. We have inputs, which are the raw materials going into your system. So this is things you actually do. It's dials, emails, send, videos recorded, stuff like that. Then you have processes, which is the stuff you apply to those inputs to convert them into outputs. So those are like scripts, SOPs, like steps you follow, software you use, right? You do dials as an input and you use a script for that dial to get the outputs, which is what comes out at the other end. So meetings or positive replies for emailed or subscribers, right? If you're doing some sort of social media system or deals for your sales, right? And then the fourth part is KPIs, right? Every system has a feedback loop, which tells you where the system is performing well or not. Okay. And you can view these things as like at a macro scale or micro scale. For example, your business, a business as a whole, is converting humans into closed deals, into money. Okay. Humans are the input, money is the output. That's a business. Every business is like that. And then if we go deeper, we have a cold calling system, which converts attention to meetings. Okay. Or a cold email system, which converts emails sent into positive replies. And then you have a calling system for emails, which converts these positive replies into meetings and those meetings into closed deals. And you see there's a lot of subsystems in your entire business. Okay. And here's why this is important. What a lot of people do is just rapidly increase the inputs. Okay. So they just do more dials or more emails without having a solid system. So they have no set processes, no SOPs, and every rep, every interaction produces a different KPI, and that is a problem. Okay. So if you have 3 SDRs, right, one of them has a booking rate of 5%, one of them has 10%, one of them has 3% one month and 15% the next, right? And you have an account executive has a closing rate of 5%, and sometimes he has 10, sometimes 15, sometimes just 1. And you wonder why. Well, this happens because everyone says different things with different tonality and has a different approach to everything. Okay. And the problem with that approach is that your system breaks at scale. Okay. So as I said, scale at first principles is an increase in size. So you have a system and now you say, okay, let me just do more inputs and then everything's going to break. Okay. Because the problem with this approach is that the problems scale with a factor of 2. Okay. So a 2x in inputs, let's say instead of 100 dials, you do 200 dials. Very simply. Means that any issue that wasn't fixed at a small scale will increase by 4x, not 2. Okay. If you 3x the inputs, you get 6 times the problem. If you 20 times the inputs, you get 40 times the problem. Okay. You see the issue. How do you actually fix this? Because that's why you're watching this video. Well, you need to standardize everything. Pretty simple. So your goal is that everyone on the team, okay, says the same thing, the same way every time. And when you do that, instead of having 20 different processes, you have one, which also means if some KPI is too low, you now have enough data to actually evaluate what's wrong and what needs to be fixed. Because now everyone is doing something else. And then, oh, you have a 3% booking rate, you have a 10%. Now you have to fix 2 things at once. You can't scale like that. It's impossible. Or you can, but then everything will break and then you'll just have a bunch more work. You'll realize nothing's working and then you need to tone down the volume again to the old size to fix things, which is not the goal, right? And so your job is to write scripts for every person with tonality input into the script, all right? Tell them when to pause, tell them when to go up with their voice or down. You need to tell them these things because otherwise, again, everyone will do that at some point where they feel like doing it, which means you have different processes and you get the point. You need to write SOPs if you don't have them already. So SOPs are standard operating procedures, basically a step-by-step explanation on how to do a certain action. All right. How do you book a meeting when someone says yes on the phone? All right. You hung up. How do you book a meeting? What's the SOP for that? Once someone replies to an email, how do you reply back? When do you do it? How do you do it? What template do you use? Where can you find the templates? You have a step-by-step instruction for that as well. Okay. Write playbooks for training. All right. That everyone reads consistently. And then enforce the rule to always stick to the script. You need, like, this is the most important part. You write the scripts, you write the SOPs, and then you make it part of your culture to make everyone stick to these things 100% of the time. If they don't, then you can't tolerate that behavior because that messes up everything. Okay. And so if you do this right, then you know that if you just 2x the dials or 2x the email sent, then you get 2 times the revenue. It's so simple. Like, actually do this. Spend time on systemizing everything. because then scaling becomes so incredibly easy. It's so easy to just 2x the dials than to spend months and months trying to optimize words to increase your conversion rate. If you have a conversion rate, it doesn't need to be optimal. It just needs to be consistent, because then you can use that to just make everything bigger without everything breaking. It's so easy. Okay? But sometimes increasing the inputs isn't that easy, right? For some systems, you just might not be able to do that. And you might need to build a new channel to facilitate the goals that you have, right? Revenue wise. And so building a channel, okay, there's three types of lead generation channels that you can build. You have inbound, which is you make systems that grab the attention and then strangers contact your business. All right. They see something and then they decide to contact you. We have outbound, which is you just contacting strangers. All right. And you have ads, which means you just put your business in front of strangers. So they take an action. It's a form of inbound, but it's, has some nuances.